It's time for the Film Crickets with Jay Fortier and Chris Martineau. On this week's episode number 46, Jay, Chris, and their special guest, morning show host at 100 FM The Pike, Mike Shue, review a doubleheader.
Two dicks at the same time, man.
No, not chicks, flicks. Jay, Chris, and Mike will be reviewing the 1982 American epic sword and sorcery film Conan the Barbarian and the 1984 sequel Conan the Destroyer. Does it stand the test of time? Let's find out. Your Film Crickets are on now.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening, everybody, wherever you are in this wide, wide world. Welcome to another fascinating episode of the Film Crickets. I am co-host Chris Martineau, joined by my lifelong friend,
Jay Fortier.
Hey, Jay, what's happened? I'm glad things are going well. Finally, behind the curtain, everybody, there's been a few technical glitches that we are working through, so we're going to do the best we can. But before we go any further, I'd like to reintroduce, welcome back yet again, host of 100 FM The Pike and Breaking the Ice podcast, the Long May You Young podcast, our friend Mike Shue. Welcome aboard, Mike Shue.
Thanks for having me back. I feel like I am cursed because we have these severe technical problems every time we try to talk about Conan, or else it's the curse of Crom or something. We've upset the gods. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Were the proper sacrifices made, Jay? I'm not sure. Are you? I said to take care of that. No. All right.
No.
Well,
no, I don't think so.
I don't think
they always seem to drop this fucking ball.
I know, and I think it's a matter. We just don't know any virgins. I think that's the problem. Because we have to be
hard to come by.
Insert joke here. So anyhow, the idea behind today was we reviewed Conan the Barbarian, but we lost that one due to technical issues. And so at the time that we were doing Conan the Barbarian, I suggested I liked Conan the Destroyer more when I was a child. And so I said we should do Conan the Destroyer. So now what we're doing today is we've just watched Conan the Destroyer. And I think my goal anyway, when we're talking about this podcast, we have to decide whether or not it holds up to the test of time. But we also want to put it against Conan the Barbarian. So the first question I'll ask before I do the rundown, do you all consider Conan the Barbarian a classic?
Yeah, I consider it a total movie classic. Mm-hmm. It's one of those films that made Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mm-hmm. As a movie star, it was a role that was basically almost like it just created for him almost. Mm-hmm. And just visually, I think it was great. It was a little ahead of its time visually. Of course, it was a little corny too, but it's a comic book. Yeah. So I considered it a classic. I think the last time we spoke about it, the conversation that no one will ever hear is that I think it was just campy enough to be timeless, in my opinion.
All right, I concur. Jay, what do you think? Classic?
I think I had said, I'm pretty sure if I remember right, I had said it didn't hold up in my opinion, but if I'm, I don't know, it's been well over a month.
Yeah,
since
sure.
we talked about it,
right? And when I say classic, I mean I don't mean like Raiders of the Lost Ark classic. I mean like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or The French Connection, or not necessarily that they're that good, but everybody knows knows those movies.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely revered. Like a certain niche. Like a certain set of fans would definitely absolutely gravitate and say, "Yeah."
Hey, Jay, you can go ahead and say it. They're nerds. They're nerds. Just call them what they are. They're nerds. That's okay. I'm a nerd. You can say
we all are.
We're owning it. We've accepted it. Yep. We run the world now.
Yeah. Depends which one, but we're all nerds. Though.
Yep.
Sure.
The geeks have inherited the earth. So then, before we get into it, is Conan? I'm not talking about stand up to test of time, because Jay said that Conan the Barbarian didn't really stand up. I think it does. I think Mike said it did. Is Conan the Destroyer a classic?
No,
I don't think it's as classic as the first Conan. Mm-hmm. I think it's because they kind of tried to water it down a little. There's definitely more humor in it. Mm-hmm. And I think that they made it. I know, reading up on it, they made a concerted effort to make it less violent so they could get that PG rating, so they could reach more people. But for some reason, it doesn't come across as, I don't know. It doesn't come across as campy or iconic, I think the word is, as the first Conan movie. Although it is a good movie, I wouldn't say it's like the Empire Strikes Back of the Conan series, because that's still, to me, the best Star Wars film ever. But it's definitely it's got a little more excitement in it, a little more what you want to see. And it's definitely got some interesting characters, just as interesting as the first movie. But for some reason, to me, I feel, after watching it a few times, doesn't really, it's not up to the level of the first movie.
I would say my take on it is, no, it's not a classic. And I think there's just a different vibe. It's a totally different energy. It's the first one is far more iconic. I think it sits as more as a better fantasy movie that stands on its own. You know what I mean? I maintain that Conan the Barbarian is a Western, with Arnold Schwarzenegger just being the Clint Eastwood Clint Eastwood didn't say a lot in those movies, barely said anything. He kind of came in, he had something that he had to prove. He had a chip on his shoulder. He enacted revenge. He got into some adventures along the way, and then he was off in the sunset. There are Clint Eastwood movies for Westerns where he literally comes into town, finds a woman, makes love to the woman, leaves the woman, and then goes and does his revenge thing. Like it's really, the Barbarian is a Western, and in my opinion, that's my opinion. And I don't think the Destroyer has the same. It's not as iconic. It doesn't have that same energy because it was watered down and because it's a PG movie. I don't know. Am I way off base? Like, do you think, Jay, did it have the same energy or not? Like, it just seemed...
No.
Yeah.
It had. I thought the pacing in this was a little better, though, as far as getting to stuff. Like it was a little more upbeat. So I did prefer that aspect. I'm not saying I preferred the movie, but the pacing was a lot better.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you an example of, and I think anytime they take an R movie and they drop it down to PG-13 for the sequel, Revenge of the Nerds. How about that? How much fun was that the second time? Like Nerds in Paradise was not as funny. I mean, they couldn't do the same jokes. Not that we want the same jokes, but they couldn't do it as lowbrow and risque or whatever. They tried, but it didn't have the same feel. Like you felt like, they're being held back here. So I think the same thing in many ways whenever they do that. Like, can you imagine an American Pie sequel that was PG-13?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it needs to be rated R. If you start with R, stay with it.
But let me get into it. So we got to get into the story here a little bit. And I would say, to your sequel thing, I mean, hey, nothing beats Blade Runner like Blade Runner 3049.
You're damn right.
I have to bring up Blade Runner.
I wasn't going to bring it up this episode. I wasn't going to bring up your hatred for Blade Runner, but you brought it up on your own. So
I had to.
I'll just let you go with that.
I absolutely had to, bro. Okay. So look, let's get into it. I think we're getting at, and we've hinted at a couple of things with that first question, is that it's a different vibe. It's a different type of storytelling. No doubt about it. It's not as epic. I don't think it's as epic. It's not as iconic. But it's got some stuff, right? So let's get into it. So I'm going to do the rundown of this quote unquote story. So according to IMDb, so we do this every time, right? So according to IMDb, we've got Conan the Destroyer, comes out in 1984, runtime 1 hour and 43 minutes. The description of the story is as follows from IMDb. Conan leads a ragtag group of adventurers on a quest for a princess, full stop. I'm pretty sure that's the same description of the movie Spaceballs, except instead of Conan,
right?
You can just say Lone Star. And he certainly had a ragtag group of adventurers. This is directed by Richard Fleischer, written by Robert Howard, Roy Thomas, and Jerry Conway. That we have returning Arnold Schwarzenegger as Conan, Grace Jones as Zula, who's crazy. Olivia Dabo. I love this Princess Jenna. When you heard her name, Princess Jenna, weren't you thinking like, is her mom like Queen Karen? Like Jenna,
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's not spelled the same. Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain takes a break. Actually, he's retired at this point, but he figured the Lakers and the 76ers weren't enough. He needed to try his acting career. He's a giant man. Mako comes back as Akiro, and again, Repo Man rears its ugly head. Tracy Walter as Malik, and we also see, according to IMDb, Pat Roach as the Man Ape. What is the Man Ape?
That's the thing, spoiler alert, that Conan kills in the Hall of Mirrors.
Oh, the Man Ape. Okay, all right.
It's like he's got a man chest, but he's got the head of Aldo from Battle of the Planet of the Apes. You know?
All right. Well,
so
that was the bald Nazi from Raiders of the Lost Ark. And
yes.
Come to fight me. Come.
Right.
And apparently Andre the Giant is in this movie as the dream god that is resurrected at the end. So the person that gets the horn gruesomely ripped out of his head is Andre the Giant. So
wow, I didn't know that.
According unsubstantiated, that's IMDb. Who knows? But that's what it's.
And the Man Ape guy was doing all sorts of wrestling moves.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. He did grab Arnold by the ankles and swing him around. I think that's a George the Animal Steel original. Right there.
Oh, that's right.
I know. Yeah, that's
Mike. You want to say
camera work
there?
On that. Yeah, as far as Tracy Walter goes, I don't see Conan the Destroyer as a Conan the Barbarian sequel. This is the Repo Man sequel right here. After they get into the car, after Miller and Otto get into the car. They go to the way back. We're not quite sure what time this is, but way back to wherever the Viking land is at this point, wherever they are. And that's where they drop him off. We've lost Otto, but Miller is still there now, and he's hanging out with Conan. Or maybe that's what happened to Conan or happened to Otto when he went through time. It's like he bulked up as Conan. I'm not sure. But I like to think of this as a Repo Man sequel.
Okay, I can deal with that. I like Terry Walters, but he's great in Repo Man, obviously, because of his timbre, because of his
Walter?
cadence. What did I say?
Terry,
I apologize. Tracy Walter. Right. I love his mannerisms in Repo Man. I mean, he is the only unfazed guy in Repo Man. Everybody else is freaking out. Does it translate well in this movie? Because he acts exactly the same. And he doesn't.
Well, I think he's less weird than he is in Repo Man, and he is the comic relief. I think he is what makes this film a lot lighter. He's not as serious as his last partner in Conan the Barbarian, who was all business.
Telling the wizard to go back to juggling.
I know,
right? Yeah,
that was awesome.
So he was the guy who brought a little levity to the whole story. I think he needed, and in the end, spoiler alert, right? He becomes the court fool.
That's true. He does become the court fool. He has that. It's just that everything he says is this all the time. You can't leave me here. Wait, they need me. Oh, I should go. Shouldn't somebody stay behind? Oh, like that's the whole thing. And I got a little tired of it, and I don't want to not like him because he's really cool. But like his one move was, I wanted to see him at least stab 3 more people from behind on a horse. At least 3, because that was his big move. Was sa. I thought that was neat. So why so many horses in this movie? Did you notice like there's so much horse work in this movie? They are always on horseback.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't really notice that as I didn't notice it as any more than the last Conan movie.
I don't recall. That's why I'm asking. I don't remember them. I remember them running across the desert a lot.
Right. Oh, yeah. They were actually running. You're right. In Conan, they were running. Right.
Yep.
I don't know. Probably in Arnold's.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's a lot of horse
probably
work.
in his contract. I'm not running.
No more. I would rather abuse my testicles on this saddle for months. Sorry. Doing the ass saddle battle. You're just not riding that horse very well.
What I like to, I was thinking myself, I think Wilt Chamberlain might be the last person you want to make sure keeps a person a virgin for the next couple of like however long. Right?
Is that irony?
Like,
is that the definition of irony?
I didn't think of that.
Like, I need you to remain. You need to keep her remain. She needs to remain a virgin so we can sacrifice her at the end. And it's like you're sending her with Wilt, a guy who is known for supposedly sleeping with like over 20,000 women. I don't know, man.
You might as well. You might. We might as well put him in
a dangerous game.
Oh, hello, Mike. You're still there?
Where'd he go?
It's fine. He'll be back.
There he is.
He's back.
Okay.
You might as well put him in charge of Magic Johnson or Gene Simmons. That probably would have been as good as Wilt Chamberlain. What a big dude! Like I had no idea how. Like he's a giant. I was reading. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's why they called him Wilt the Stilt.
I know, but that's a lot of man. Apparently, because of all the horse work in this movie, and again, this is Wikipedia, so who knows? But every horse they put Wilt on, his feet would touch the ground, sitting on the horse.
I saw that.
Can you imagine? So they had to ship in a horse from Spain that was big enough to handle Wilt the Stilt. Wow, like, oh my God. Like, that's crazy. Why has Wilt been in any other movies?
I don't think so. I think that was his only movie. And I think it's, he wanted to, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in a couple of movies. He was in, what was the Bruce Lee movie he was in? Oh, he was in Game of Death, I think, with Bruce Lee.
Right? Oh, yeah.
And, then, so I think if Kareem can do it, I can do it too. Was Wilt the only guy to score 100 points in a game?
Yes.
Is that him?
I think so.
Yes. It is with the Sixers. Yep.
Right. So it's like he's conquered basketball. Now he's going to conquer Hollywood, and he's going to do it with a really big horse.
Yeah, with a giant quote unquote horse. Is Wilt the best actor in this movie? Because boy, there's some suspect range, I would say. Anybody? I mean, I know that Tracy is good for what he does, but this was miserable acting. Is it me, or am I just being too harsh?
Well, I mean, you got Wilt and you got Grace Jones, not really actors, I guess you could say. Although I thought Grace Jones was great.
Oh, sure.
I agree. She was perfect for her character, and she was just very Grace Jones, which is always a good thing in my book. If she maybe broke out into Pull Up to the Bumper at one point, that would have been great for the movie. But I don't know. I think it's because of the whole push to make it a little more family friendly. And so I think, not that the first Conan movie had, Oscar caliber acting in it, but I think it was this whole push to water it down a little bit. And I think that maybe because there were some good actors in it. I mean, you look at Mako and who was the woman that was the queen? What was that actress's name? She was in Superman.
Yeah.
Sarah Douglas.
Yeah. She's been in a ton of stuff. I think maybe it's because they were just trying to keep it light. Maybe that's why this acting wasn't as convincing as it was in the first one.
But that's my thing. Like, I watched Conan the Barbarian, and when you read what the wiki says about Conan, and they obviously they cast Arnold in Conan because he's obviously a giant, and because of all the other, because of his Mr. Universe credentials and all that stuff. But they also didn't need a lot of depth out of the character, because they didn't need him to do a lot, So because of that, the minimalist, I might be giving them too much credit, but the minimalist acting you had in Conan the Barbarian kind of worked. You weren't expecting a lot. It was all in the actions of the people doing the thing.
Right.
Where in this one, they're actually trying to act scenes, And I think it kind of fails miserably because she's terrible. The Virgin Princess is terrible. Wilt Chamberlain, I'm sorry, is terrible. Arnold is not good. And again, and I'm not taking anything away from, I can't remember his name, Tracy
Walter.
Tracy, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm going to write that down. I'm not taking anything away from Tracy, but he always says every line the same way. So for that, and I'm just explaining why I think the movie is flat compared to Conan the Barbarian. It just comes in flat because they're expecting too much of the characters, I think, of the actors to actually push the thing forward. I don't know. I could be cuckoo. And I'll get to it later, but the movie disappointed me because I'm kind of flip-flopping on it. I used to not like Barbarian and I like Destroyer. Now I like Barbarian and I don't like Destroyer, which is weird. It's
yeah.
I
and it's weird because Destroyer has a lot, like as Jay said, has kind of like gets to the action a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not as like, you know, huge and drawn out. And so, you know, you think that would be a little more exciting and make it more exciting. But I hear what you're saying. It's just, it lacks something the first one did. And it, you know, the scenery, the production, everything I think is great in it. Just like the first one. It's a De Laurentiis film and they go all out when it comes to set production. And, you know, that was like the height of special effects at the time.
Yeah.
You know, the giant bird that comes and steals the princess and stuff like that. And, you know, all the monsters in it. But yeah, there was something about it. And I think I really do think it's like they were saying, all right, let's just lean on all that instead of the acting. I
saw when they were trying to steal. So let's get to it, right? We've hired Conan and the thief. Now Conan has gone from Barbarian. The last we saw him, he was riding off into the sunset, looking to find his kingdom. And now we come upon Conan again, and he's been robbing people, and he now has a thief at his side. So now Conan's considered a thief more than a barbarian. And now we're trying to enlist Conan to go work for this evil queen that we talked about a moment ago to bring back the god of dreams. So he's enlisting Conan to go with the Virgin Princess to go steal a magical horn to bring it back to the palace to revive the Angel of Sleep, which is, they don't know what they're about to do because it's a monster. Okay, that's fine and all, but how did they get, it's so goofy. Didn't he renounce Crom at the end of Barbarian?
Not really. He just kind of said, if you don't help me, then the hell with you. So he didn't say, I don't believe in you anymore.
But Mike and Jay, did
fuck
Crom
you,
help?
Jobu.
No, yeah, that's what I mean. Say fuck you, Joe. I say fuck you. Jesus, I like him very much. So wait a minute. So you think that I took the end of Barbarian to be that Arnold did it all on his own without the help of Crom? Because he says,
well, you wouldn't have seen the help from Crom. You
okay,
wouldn't
but
have seen
that's
like a hand come down. So the
okay.
fact that he was able to succeed, you could say that Crom helped. He just didn't see it happen. You know, like
Crom helped
for
when
instance,
he
if
brought
you're a religious person.
Valeria back, you know, from the dead to help him out near the end there when he saves his life. She saves his life.
Okay. All right.
You know, I guess you could say that's Crom, or is that some other Viking god, you know, sticking their hand into the story there.
Right. Okay. So see, I guess when I ended Barbarian, that was, to me, that was his thing. Like, I did it on my own. I didn't need anybody's help. So when we opened to Destroyer with him praying to Crom, I thought that's out of character because he says, I don't pray to, in Barbarian, didn't he say, I'm not going to pray to you?
I don't know. But he was praying for her, you know, he's in love, you know, and like Bob Dylan says, you can't be wise and in love at the same time.
Valid.
Not even Conan the Barbarian, you know?
I just thought it was weird that they brought it back to this thing of I have to leave it up to Crom and Crom telling me what I should be doing when really the Barbarian makes his own decisions. You know
I think he applies Crom when he thinks it's useful.
All right.
Like most people use religion.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, God, I really hope God, please let the Patriots win this weekend. Okay, really? How about God cure cancer? That'd be nice too.
Yeah, I know. I got a lot of money riding on the Bruins. I don't know.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right.
Everyone knows that God hates the Packers.
They tend to do that. Like they just sort of like make a. They get you like into a different mindset, and it's like, this is not how I felt early when I left. And I think that's a giant mistake. I agree. Like it's a mistake.
Yeah.
I think people need the same as far as the characters that like, and by the way, this happens all the time too. Like, let's say at the end of a movie, people have been working really hard. Jurassic World, right? I know you hated the sequel, but my point is this: they spent the whole movie, Chris Pratt and the other girl, the girl from
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bryce Dallas Howard. They spend the whole thing sort of with that tension, and then they finally get together at the end. And the sequel starts with them. Well, they broke up and now they're not together, but they have to spend the whole movie again together. So it's like, so the whole movie, we have to watch them try to get back together again. Like it's like, why, how come, why don't you just put them together? They've been together this whole time and now move on to a different problem.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Like everyone's always divorced or broken up at the end, at the beginning of the sequels. So I'm just saying like, so him not having the stuff that you were expecting, it's almost like this weird typical writers thing. I don't know, that everybody goes like, well, we'll just,
plus Conan's probably got bills he had to steal. Everyone's got bills, man. So they had to steal, they had to eat. He started out as a thief, right? I mean, pretty much, and that's how he's scrapping along. He started out as a gladiator, but then when he got loose, he hooked up with the other dude there, and they were stealing stuff left and right. And who better to hire, I guess, to steal something and to keep someone a virgin than a couple of thieves.
He's got to finance his new kingdom. He's got to get a loan.
He's got to get capital.
He's got to get a loan from the Mongolian emperor and all that. No, but in Barbarian,
he's got all these jewels to trade in.
Valid. No, but in the Barbarian, he was stealing from bad people. But in this movie, I get the vibe that his little thief friend doesn't steal from bad people. He just steals from everybody. Oh, and by the way, when does he take a shit? Because how many jewels is he gonna put down his gullet? Holy Jesus! Come on!
Yeah, he was constantly swallowing diamonds.
Oh my God!
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, at some point, that gruel, he's got to get some kind of fiber going in there, some kind of gruel or something, and get that stuff out of there.
Wilford Brimley comes around. He's like, can you not pass your diamond? Because I've got Quaker Oats and diabetes.
Right. I mean,
that's good stuff. So yeah, that's all I'm getting at, is that it seems like it's a different Conan. The last Conan is noble, but a barbarian. And now this one's just kind of like, I'll just do some adventures. I don't know, man. It was just, I'm sorry. It was just a different energy.
You know what? I saw the same thing in James Bond. The James Bond series with Sean Connery started out. He was very much like the James Bond in the books, where he was a little cold and, because he's an assassin. But then it became more one-liners. Then Roger Moore took over and it was all one-liners, and it's the same thing that they were doing with Conan here.
No.
They were trying to get to a more mass appeal than the first one.
I know.
So they figure, having some jokes,
Freddy Krueger,
having some jokes in Wilt Chamberlain,
yes.
Because Grace Jones wasn't
Krueger.
exactly mainstream at the time. So.
Freddy Krueger goes through that. Freddy Krueger went through that.
Yeah.
You're right.
He was like a stand-up
Mike, we just
comic
did Moonraker.
But as the movies went on.
Yeah, it was stupid. It really did get dumb. Mike, we just did Moonraker, so let's
Ooh.
That's a rough movie.
Yeah.
We did it with Kevin Barbary.
Not one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin for that.
Let's talk Grace Jones. Is Grace Jones? I love her. I thought she's great. I know she's a wacko. In real life, I know that she's got some screws loose. I know that she's very difficult to work with. I know that when she was on Vamp, she did the movie Vamp. Like she showed up like 4 hours late, and then proceeded to. She was in a scene where she had to bite a guy and actually bit the guy. So like she's a little like she's unhinged.
That's method.
Yeah, that's very method. So I was down with her character totally. Was she a little too much, or was she right on target? Like for a movie that's supposed to be watered down, but what do you think?
I thought she was right on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I thought she was great.
Yep.
She was good. She didn't talk a lot, you know, because her acting skills aren't that great. She was, you know, this is kind of a good segue because she was also in A View to a Kill, that James Bond movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
I believe that's the one she was in.
Yeah,
as
right.
Like one of the villains, right? And she didn't talk at all, I think, in that one, you know, because she's so striking looking.
Yes.
You know, you see her and she'll, you know, she gets the attention of everyone when she walks into a room. And I think they did a great job with that here. It's, you know, when it comes down to it, it's a comic book and you want it to be like as much like that as possible. You know, you want the characters to be so exaggerated, you know, Schwarzenegger, you know, and Wilt Chamberlain, you know, and then you have Grace Jones and they're so extreme, but that's what a comic book is. You know, it's like everything's just hyper. The characters are all just hyper steroided out. No, that's not a joke. That's no pun there because this is an Arnold movie. I know. And I'm sure he didn't do steroids while he was getting in shape for this film at all.
No, not a bit.
But I thought she was a great choice just because the look. And like, again, it's a De Laurentiis movie and it's all about how this movie looks, you know, and it like the first one. I thought it looked great and she kind of fit right in with that.
Jay, where are you on Grace Jones?
Yeah. You know, I was like 11 when I saw this, so I didn't. A lot of this wasn't really registering with me. Like some kids would, you know, I'm sure love it, but like I was like, I remember being annoyed by Tracy Walters' cadence. I remember like all the delay. It's funny you said that because I remember being like. That was the memory I had. And, you know, Grace Jones, I just didn't get her. I didn't understand, like, you know, I didn't understand the appeal. Now, so I went in really low yesterday when I was going to watch it. And, you know, she was a pleasant surprise. Like, you know, so like I was very pleased with her. I was like, she's awesome, you know, for what she was doing. By the way, when she was freaking out about the rat, I was laughing. I mean, I thought that was hysterical. Like she pulled that off brilliantly. You know, when she screamed and started like flipping out, and they all looked at her like, "What the hell's wrong with her?" No, she was. They couldn't have picked a better person. I'm not talking about acting, but like they couldn't have picked a better person to fit that role. She nailed it. We were talking about how the pacing was this way. I was enjoying the film, and then I was like, this place looks great. Everything looks cool. And then when they showed the ape guy, I thought he looked awful. I was like, oh boy, here we go. And I was like, no, this is bad. This is not good. It's almost like they started dropping the ball. And by the way, like, you know, even the ending monster that apparently Andre the Giant was, he looked awful too.
It kind of reeks of a canon film. You know what I mean? Those canon films, like Masters of the Universe, and like it just like the way that the acting was terrible and the way they went to those. And I know it was 84, but when you see the crystal set and then you see a wizard inside and then you see the outside and then there's a ghosty eagle and then she's inside, like it was all so disjointed and crazy that it felt like a canon film. And the fact that we started in the palace and then we went away from the palace and then we had to go to another palace, like it like we have to get a diamond before we can get the magical horn so that we can bring it back to the palace. And it was just so
story all over the place.
And it looked like Superman 4-ish. Like it was just this, it had this stamp of a canon film, but it wasn't a canon film. That's what I thought it was actually a canon film, and I forgot, but I don't know.
Well, remember, they changed directors, too. That may have had something to do with it.
I did
so
not
it
know
was
that.
John Milius,
Yeah.
I believe, who directed the first one. I think that's who it was. And then this one was Richard Fleischer. So I guess Milius wasn't available. And so the De Laurentiis family already knew Fleischer. I guess they were already friends. He had done some work with them already. So this, it may also be because of they had the change of director, and maybe they had to do it, at a late notice or something like that. But yeah, there's a different director. So if they had Milius directing this one, maybe it would have been a little more epic, like the first one.
Milius is I'm pretty sure he's in the same boat as I know he wrote some of Jaws. I know he's involved with Spielberg. I know he was involved with some biggies. And I'm not going to bring up all of that stuff, but if you look at what Fleischer did, we're talking about The Jazz Singer, Amityville 3D, Red Sonja. He also did Soylent Green. Okay.
Oh,
but then there's some others. Yeah, but there's some other stuff in here that isn't the same. And it's not the same caliber as Milius. Milius was known throughout Hollywood. And I think that was his one of the first few films that he directed, but he directed other stuff. I think he's known more as a writer and as a director of photography. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So the flavor is completely different, and it just has that cheesy Canon film stamp on it. So much so that they hired a basketball player just for spectacle. You know what I mean? He's just a spectacle. He's huge.
Yeah.
So
Deadpan,
that's why they did that.
Deadpan.
Oh gosh, it was up there with it's up
not
there.
An actor.
Name the movie.
I know.
You're looking for
sometimes they might luck out and get somebody who's not an actor, but they have a lot more oomph than that. Like in the movie Miracle, they actually used hockey players and not actors, and they were impressive.
I'll do you one better, Uncle.
Who are not actors.
I'll do you one better. I'll see your Miracle, which is a fantastic movie, and I'll raise you an Uncle Drew.
Would you really be raising anything if you mention Uncle Drew?
I'm just saying that the basketball players in Uncle Drew did better than Wilt Chamberlain in this movie.
I didn't see it.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Shaq is very charismatic. If
he's got a personality.
Whatever you want to. I mean, Penny Hardaway was pretty good. Even the Lisa Leslie was good in it as the crazy wife. And
last week we watched Moonraker, and the main villain was really ultra terrible. As far as having no emotions, and I also said, I said they needed to put mirrors under his nose to see if he was still alive because he was so freaking so I think him and Wilt Chamberlain would compete but this guy was supposedly an actor, so I think that's not saying much.
I think we need Wilt Chamberlain and Paul Stanley in the same movie, so Paul Stanley can say, "You're looking for someone, but it's not Kiss."
You see me and Gene, we get together.
Why have we not done Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park yet? Oh God.
Why did we not? Oh man.
Why have we not?
Our voice guy Steve is the biggest Kiss fan on the planet, and so he would absolutely love it if we did that movie.
Oh my God.
That is a movie that, I don't really go along with reboots.
Yeah.
But that's a movie that seriously needs a reboot.
How would you reboot that movie?
It would just get a good update on it somehow. You would have to just really you could. I don't know. It just needs to be redone. It needs to be redone
with Kiss.
And it's funny how they hate each other. You get Gene and Paul, and then you get Ace and Peter. You'd have to film them all separately.
Right. Yeah.
Acting like
forever.
They're like, what do you think? What do you think, Peter? And then all right, bring in Peter on day 2 and we're going to record his response. Okay.
Is
well, it really wouldn't matter. You just put the makeup on whoever.
Valid.
That's right.
that's that's Gene's plan for Kiss after him and Paul retire. They're just going to keep going, but not them, just people in makeup.
It'll be like Gallagher 2. It'll be like Gallagher
Right.
2. Yeah. It's the only comic to ever franchise his material, which is genius. I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Hey.
Anybody can smash a watermelon. What does it matter?
Yeah.
All right. So back to Conan. We haven't brought up the fact that we have the princess who is a virgin. We have, and she's being defended by Wilt Chamberlain. We do have a comic moment where they explain virginity. Who does the birds and the bees talk?
Oh, well, she was asking Grace Jones.
Yep.
And Grace Jones was just like, just take him.
Yeah.
And then she, for some reason,
Tracy
went up
Walter.
to Tracy Walter to ask him about the birds and the bees.
Yep.
And he's, and he gave your standard, school principal answer, which was a non-answer.
Didn't he say
much.
like when he takes his parts and he docks with your parts? Was that?
Or like they get together. They get together. They have to be together. Right. You have to, and he had some great hand motions, the hot dog hand motions and stuff like that. Yeah. Right. I don't know why she would move on to him. I mean, you would think you would go to a wizard for sex education. The guy's got the guy knows like 30 different languages. He can read random hieroglyphics on a wall and cast spells. He may know something about human anatomy that he could probably explain to her. And that was kind of his character anyway, that he was always wanting to teach and explain, but she goes to the guy who's swallowing diamonds and fishing them out of his poop.
And then
hey, whatever.
Who eventually she'll use as her own fool.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Who she ends up hiring the guy anyway,
Let's not forget that Akira could have done the sex ed talk with his finder fingers. That was my favorite.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly.
Where is the vagina? Oh, there is the vagina.
Right, yes.
Where is the penis? There is the penis.
Yeah. Right? The guy wanted to explain things. That was like he was always trying to explain things. Nobody would listen to him.
What a wacko power that was. Like, need to find something? Ask Akira. Where is it? Hold on. There
was one point in the film where he seemed annoyed, like he was when she got carried off by the eagle thing back to the castle in the middle of the lake.
Yeah.
And he's like, Akira, where is she? And he's looking around and he's got the fingers out. And then he kind of just goes, she's over there.
Yeah, that's right.
And he seemed like he was like, you're interrupting him. It's like, where's the prince? He's over there. And he's like motions towards the castle. Let me get back to the game.
Right.
By the way, where the fuck else is she gonna be? There's a magical castle in the middle of a glowing lake. Oh no, she's over at the Waffle House over on the other side of that mountain. What the fuck?
She's picking berries.
Like what
or something.
Where else is she gonna be? Holy moly! I want to talk a couple more points. Did anyone notice Conan's vanishing and reappearing wardrobe in this movie?
No.
He started the movie, he just had the fur bikini. And then later on he had full pants. And then he had full pants and a shirt. And in the last scene of the movie, he was back to the fur bikini. Like he had this mystical, almost like the way Hugh Jackman like magically gets a muscle shirt in Wolverine Origins, like pop suddenly in leather shirt, leather jacket gone away. Now we're in a muscle shirt, or the way the Torettos. By the way, Dom Toretto only either wears a white muscle shirt or a black muscle shirt, and he constantly interchanges between them. In the old Fast and Furious movies, this guy it was so odd because he was the only one that had a costume change, and he went from. Why did they do pants? Like I thought they're trying to show him off. He suddenly had pants on, and where was he hiding the pants? Because his horse had no gear on it at all. So where did he get pants? That's all I'm asking on the pants. And back to Grace Jones, only one person can pull off a fuzzy tail and make it look awesome.
Right.
I'm not making fun of that.
You've got to have a physique to pull that off. The right physique to do that.
She definitely did. Are you gonna make fun of her as a fuzzy? I'm not.
No.
No.
And you know what's funny? I always thought Grace. It's funny to see Grace Jones next to Wilt Chamberlain, because Grace Jones, you see her in video or, on a stage or in, and she looks like she's gigantic. She's like bigger than life. But then she's standing next to Wilt Chamberlain, and she's like 4 feet tall. Everybody standing next to Wilt was just, it made it. That was kind of, I don't know if awkward is the right word, but whenever they showed Wilt standing around, it was just kind of like, that's kind of distracting.
A little
and
bit.
Arnold's not big as far as tall. So like,
right.
Him next to Wilt is like, Wilt was bending down a lot. Like I thought his legs were bent a lot.
Well, I felt bad for Wilt because they had him going through caves and in caverns and underneath castles, and the poor guy's like 7 feet tall. It's like,
doesn't he?
How about he waits outside?
Yeah. Oh, there's that scene where they're both holding up a door, and Wilt's like 3 feet higher than Arnold is, and they're both holding up that door. I'm like, holy Jesus, this guy's a monster. And how many times is he going to accidentally attack Conan in this movie? He's like, oops, sorry. There's like twice where he attacks him. He's like, oh, sorry, I thought something else was going on. Oh, no, I'm not going to ambush you. What? Like, I understand. Conan's not the brightest guy.
It's Conan the Destroyer, not Conan the President of Mensa. Right? So, but you don't have to hit him over the head twice with that weird beaked thing to, let him know that Wilt's bad news. But
towards the end, was she in a trance when they were trying to sacrifice her?
Oh,
yeah.
Why would she allow like her neck to go back as they're raising a dagger towards her?
Because
like,
the queen,
she's already kind of a nervous person.
The queen roofied her. She put a little powder in her wine. Yeah.
All right.
I missed that.
I was wondering about that.
She wasn't in control.
Like had her neck back. Like she's not panicking about that blade.
She had no idea where she was.
Everything's above board. It's okay. They also they brought back the orgy music from Conan the Barbarian.
So that was the same. That was the same music.
Yep.
I thought that. I was like, is this the same thing they used in the first movie?
Yeah, it's not the whole thing, but it's the same. It's the same. That's where I heard it the first time. So anyway, so at the end of the day, the whole point of this movie is we got to get the virgin, to get the diamond, to get the jeweled horn, to bring it back to the palace, to resurrect the dream god, and then sacrifice the virgin before the dream god destroys everything. They don't sacrifice the virgin. The dream god tries to destroy everything, but Conan rips the horn back out and everything's okay. And then Conan's off on his own.
That's
it's like, dude, it's like this is like Common Core math of barbarian movies. It's like, no, you could just carry the one. No, you have to break it down here and then break it down again, and then more numbers here and more here. When it's just like, just chop one guy's head off and get the job done. Just carry the one.
Yes, but
that's all you got to do.
Yes, but why does Conan have a sword?
Complex story.
It is.
Think about it. Like there's so much. No, I'm talking about. It's not necessary to tell him to go. All right, you need the virgin. First off, you got to take the virgin over to the castle. Then the virgin now she's the only one that can grab the diamond. Now then, which allows you to go get a horn. And then, oh, and by the way, take the diamond back. Like you can't, you don't leave the diamond there. You have to take it too. And then take I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff for nothing. Like that's what I'm talking about when I say complex, not complex, but it's just, that's all that explanation. And it seems like it's not necessary.
I think that maybe they were under the fear of being judged by Dungeons and Dragons aficionados. And so they had to throw in a few extra steps in there.
I think
I don't know.
I like that.
I agree.
I like that observation, Mike.
More creative.
Sure. And I like Mike's observation, because if you play Dungeons and Dragons, and I did in the 6th grade, like everybody else did, is that like the adventures are first you do this, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and that's this movie. The writing is absolutely lazy. there's no explanation as to why anything happens. They retread old things, and it's literally a and then script. It's like, first we did this, and then this, and then we find Grace Jones, and then we get this guy, and now we have our team, and then we get to Diamond, and then we come back, and then it's over. And that's lazy. It's obviously lazy. Conan the Barbarian is actually not as lazy a script, because it actually has a little more of, it's more than just and then. Like, everything's connected. You know what I mean? Even though it seems like it's first this adventure, then this one, they're all connected because of the Snake King, and because of it all kind of ties back to his youth. This is just, we're going on an adventure, and then Conan saves the day. And that's why the energy is kind of not the same thing, because the stakes aren't as high. Who gives a shit? Really? I mean, obviously the Dream God's going to take over the world, but past that, we don't care anything about Conan. Do you? Did you care about Conan more in this movie than the last one? Or did you care about Conan?
But like
go ahead.
Like you said earlier, he was just kind of there. He was kind of just like, he was kind of like a Viking Forrest Gump. He was just wandering into a situation, and everything else was happening. All the action was happening around him.
Yeah.
And he happened to be at the right place in the right time, you know, with Grace Jones and Will Chamberlain and all these strange characters and the horn and the diamond and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of breezing through it, you know, all swole, you know, just like flexing his ass off. You know,
there was a lot of flexing. There was a lot of unnecessary flexing.
That first scene where you see him praying and they start from the shoes and they go up. And it's just like, you know, he had just been recently greased, you know, and he's like shining. I'm just like, okay, wow. He definitely bulked up for this one.
There were some sword poses. First he did that one, and just to see this, and then he did the one over the head to see oh my, I'm like, what is happening? But it's okay. I was okay. What do you got? I mean, obviously the man's half
That's Arnold.
naked.
That's why he's there.
Yeah,
right.
That's whatever. I mean, that's fine. But holy moly!
In the first one, though, you had that. You know, his parents were killed. You know, especially his mother. You know, in front of him. And he had to grow up in slavery. All that stuff, you felt the pain. So by the time he goes and kills the James Earl Jones character, you're like, thank you. Finally, somebody got rid of this guy. You know, so
there's some satisfaction
in this.
there.
It's like, in this, you're not feeling the pain. You're like, you know, whatever.
Well, they tried. They tried with like, he'll have a chance to have his girlfriend back.
Yeah,
you know, that was like his thing. But there was like, it was just kind of a side thing. There was no, it was just pretty, it was very superficial. And in the end, he realizes, they're not going to follow through on this. And it's like,
well, the moment they also don't even let the audience, they don't keep the audience in the dark on whether she's an evil woman or not. Like, they tell you. So, like, we need to sacrifice my niece, right? So you're like, oh, okay. So they're screwing over Conan. He's not really going to get his girl. So, you know what I mean? Had they left you in the dark, maybe you would have been like, oh, I hope he can get back in time to get his original girl back. But because they told us, they were like, oh, okay, I guess, you know, like, so we see the killer. We know who the killer is. All right, very good.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
no mystery
Mike,
here.
I like. No, Mike, I like the word. I think you got the word. It's superficial. The movie is the entire movie is superficial, and when
it looks amazing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
that's it though.
And it's not entertaining, but it's absolutely superficial. I like that because when you said the word superficial, my brain rewound back to the last scene in Conan the Barbarian where he finally gets his revenge. And he's sitting on the Snake Temple stairs, not knowing what to do with himself, because that's been his whole life. And that's all of the character is in that one moment. And he doesn't have to act because he just has to sit there because now he doesn't know what to do with himself because he finally did it. And now what? Whereas this movie, there's none of that. It's all superficial, just stuff. And it doesn't make that. I think we figured it out. That's the missing energy. It's a superficial movie. I like that's cool. Hey, let's do Final Judgment. What do you think? Have we?
Well, if I can, before
Go.
we do that,
Mike, go.
Much like the first Conan movie, this one was also way ahead of its time as far as, if you look at the characters and stuff, a very diverse group in both movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had Arnold, you had the Mako, the Asian guy, and the other guy, you're not quite sure what he was, Central Asian or whatever it may have been, you know, and the very strong woman character. And then in this one, same thing. You had the very strong woman character, you know, you had Will Chamberlain. It was kind of way ahead of its time as far as the diversity they're looking for in movies these days.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
and in the end, you had the Queen saying, you know, to Grace Jones, you know, why not a woman heading up my army, you know, being my general,
Yep.
you know?
Okay.
And so,
Yeah.
so I just got to say, like I said in the first one that nobody ever heard, Conan was woke way before woke was a woke thing. All right.
Mhm.
I
And
didn't.
she,
That's very true.
And Grace is not not even close to being a typical woman.
No.
I mean, like, you know what I mean?
No.
Like, she's not like the most feminine thing you've ever seen. Am I right? Am I wrong by saying that?
Right.
No.
No.
Right,
She's
you know what I mean? Like-
she's a completely different being.
Yep.
Yes.
Right. So, like, I'm saying, like, it's not like, for instance, the princess or, you know, the
Right.
queen at the end. She's very feminine, very ladylike. Grace is not.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like, so, like, in that sense, it's not typical. So, like, that's also, that would be like very, you know, as far as today, it's like, you know, there's somebody else too.
Right.
It's not like, you know, not every girl has to be the damsel in distress. So
Exactly. Right.
And he doesn't. He does both films. He doesn't get the girl in the end, right? Like that's not.
Yeah.
He's alone again. He could have.
he didn't want her.
Yeah. Nah, that's okay. I got my own kingdom too. Whatever. So sorry, gal.
Yeah. But, wait, hold on though, real quick. I want to say, you know, I'm not going to do an Arnold impression, but what he should have said is, this one cost 18 million and we only made 26.4 to 31. So we'll never see me get that kingdom. Like in the third movie. Because they tried to make it, they tried to say, like, well, we didn't quite make the money that we wanted to. They made money, but it wasn't that much. So it was like, sort of like, I guess we're not going to go to see him actually get that kingdom. Because they tried to send it.
Wouldn't
You're going to keep wandering, Conan.
You know, with the wizard guy. What's his name?
Mm-hmm. Akira.
What's the wizard? Yeah,
Akira.
Right, Akira.
Yeah,
right.
something.
He was the one narrating, and then he was like, "Yeah, and that's you know, for another story." Nope.
All right.
So all right, let's
Final judgment.
we'll start. Final judgment.
It's time now for final judgment. Are you ready to rubber stamp this bitch? Here's the final judgment.
Mike, did you want to start this one?
Sure. I kind of agree with you guys in the sense that this movie, despite having a lot of action, falls kind of flat. The only thing I would say that holds up is, again, you know, the scenery and the production. Like visually, this is a great, you know, fantasy, sci-fi, comic book movie, but nowhere near as quality as the first Conan. So I don't think this one holds up anywhere near the first Conan movie holds up. It stays in, what was it, 1984?
Yep.
Yeah, it stays in 84 for me.
Cool. I'll go.
right.
So here's the
All right.
thing.
Yep.
It doesn't hold up. It doesn't have the feel of a classic like the first one does. I have flip-flopped, as I've said before, on my opinion of this movie. I don't think it's as good as the first one. First one's not great either, but I preferred this one, but now I don't. I actually prefer the other one now. I prefer Barbarian more. It doesn't hold up because I don't... the action sequences weren't as good as the first one, and I don't think the action sequences are kind of slow. It's a lot of people basically jousting. You know, we don't want to see that now. We want to see like armies and shit and like a lot of people, but it's literally just like,
yeah, there wasn't a lot of, despite all the horses, there wasn't a lot of that grand battle scale.
No, it wasn't. It was just basically clang, clang, flex, clang, and that's slow. So I'm not into that. And while it does get points for being diverse, as Mike said, it was woke before it's woke. It does make an effort to show that we can have diversity in characters, regardless of race or whatever. We do have Arnold ups the ante by beating up 2 animals in this movie, as opposed to 1.
That's true.
We punch a horse and we punch a camel. And I guess that they cut that camel scene short. I guess they actually tied the camels on the production crew. They tied the camel's feet together so it couldn't get up, which is absolutely not allowed at all.
Yeah, that's
not okay. So no, we don't. Yeah, it's terrible. So wow. Yeah, so just for that, and people don't want to see animals getting hurt for any reason. We always got to see them get back up. There's a lot of dead horses in Lord of the Rings, but that's another. We don't see it happening,
CGI.
And we don't see it
CGI.
happening. We just see them on the ground. Yeah, some of it's CGI, and we see them on the ground afterwards. But with this, Arnold is making contact with 2 horses.
He hit that camel.
Yeah,
he hit that camel on the top of the head with his fist,
and he punched a horse in the face. Like a round of boom. Like that's not okay.
That's awful.
So it does not hold up for those reasons. So Jason, what do you think?
No, yeah, it does not. It does not hold up, and I can't sit there and. I mean, really, I want you to take somebody who's 20 something. You're like, hey, they're showing Conan the Destroyer tonight at a local theater. Let's go. You know what I mean? Who would say that? Right? Like, the sequel. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot wrong with it. I think throughout we've talked to, all the different aspects that it just sort of falls flat. It doesn't have, there was good stuff. Like I said, I enjoyed it in the sense that like, I enjoyed the pacing, but I really hated once they got to that monster, I was like, oh no, guys,
right.
No, there's just you need to sit there and say, well, this could absolutely play well for people today. And, I agree with the diversity. It was definitely a thumbs up or whatever you want to call it for that. That was pretty great. But that's probably it. I mean, like in the scenery and stuff like that. But, you can't just say like, we're going to watch this movie because the scenery is phenomenal. Yeah. Let's go. Let's get together and watch this.
These horses go past some really awesome cliffs. You got to see it, guys.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just thought the story's just meh. Like, like I said, it's really crazy with the weird stuff. Like go get the diamond, take the diamond, go get the horn, make sure she's still a virgin. It's just, they could have been a lot more creative with the writing. So none of that holds up. So that's a big no for me.
That's a big no. All right. Well, as our opinion is fact, we have decided that Conan the Destroyer is a pass, and it does not stand up to the test of time. I imagine it's not a real good entry. Yep.
It's better again. If you don't think of it as a Conan the Barbarian sequel and you think of it as the sequel to Repo Man, then it's a much better movie if you put your mind into that frame there.
Wouldn't it be awesome if at the end the car kind of flew across the horizon?
Oh yeah. And it would be great at the end. He picked Conan up in the palace after all, the queen or whatever, the princess hired all his friends. And it's like, what about you, Conan? I want you to rule my kingdom with me. And he's just like, it's a cosmic unconsciousness. Say you were thinking of a bowl of gruel, or somebody said bowl or gruel, went through that whole Miller thing. And then then he went up in the car and took off. That would have been
same year, right?
A better ending.
No.
Same year.
No, I think Repo Man was 80 or 81, 82. Was it 82?
I think it's 82.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little earlier.
Same year as Barbarian, but maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs to talk about how everybody's all commercial in the kingdom of wherever it was. You know what I mean? That you just want to wake up and
1984, guys.
Repo Man was 84. Really?
Was Repo Man 84?
Yeah.
Wow, I thought it was earlier.
So did I. Oh, all right.
Wow.
It's like, oh, you guys just, your life is so
No, but
boring.
think of that. 2 Tracy Walter movies, and he's like totally like in different feels. It's just funny. Like it was the year of Tracy Walter, I guess.
It's good to see him getting some work. And then after that, all right. So that concludes Conan the Destroyer / Conan the Barbarian. I want to thank Mike Shue again. Thanks, Mike, for coming by and dealing with our technical glitches and whatnot. And hopefully this one will come out. Mike, is there anything you'd like to plug, Mike, before we get on out of here?
Yeah, well, you can listen to me every morning, 100 FM The Pike here in Worcester. That's 100.1. You can listen on the Pike app. You can stream us at pikefm.com. You can ask your smart speaker to play 100 FM The Pike. And please check out the Breaking the Ice podcast with my friends Josh Dolan and Isaiah, and the Neil Young podcast, Long May You Young, which I do with Luke and Russ Condon from the band Town Meeting. And we have a great time talking about Neil Young's musical output and his movies and all his other projects on that one. So if you're a Neil Young freak, please check out Long May You Young. And thank you very much, guys, for having me back. I appreciate it. Hopefully this one will make it through. And,
Yep.
Hopefully Crom will be with us on this one.
2 things. My brother George listens to the Breaking the Ice since he heard you on ours. And he really digs the podcast there. So he wanted to let
cool.
you know that.
Well, tell him thanks. That makes that's 11 people now, not including my parents.
Woo!
That's awesome.
Yeah. Chipping away at it.
And we
appreciate that.
We had Luke on a couple weeks ago when we did Awakenings. Luke Condon. We did.
Wow.
We did Awakenings with Luke. So, and he was awesome.
That's great. Yeah, he's quite the movie guy. So,
yeah. No, he was a good talk. So,
all
right. So if you want to email us, you can email us at filmcrickets8099 please like and subscribe and rate and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is you get your podcast. Please send it out there. Share us amongst your friends. Next week, what do we got, Jay? Next week,
we're going to be doing the movie Scream with a girl named Amy Over, and she is from the Confronting Columbine podcast. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's gonna be
awesome.
Great.
Last time I saw that movie, Jay, was with you in like 1994.
So, it's been a while myself. So
yeah,
it's
wow.
it's a 96 movie. Yeah, it's a 96 movie.
So we saw it on video. So
yeah, either way,
somewhere on there.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool,
guys. Well, thank you very much.
Take care.
And we'll see you all next time.
Chirp about movies.